Dear friends, today we are reviewing one of the most high-profile political events in Europe. German right-wing leader Alice Weidel and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban have arranged a meeting that has already been dubbed historic. Historical for whom? For them, of course. But let's figure it out. Will the Alternative for Germany party be able to break out of political isolation and assert itself as a real force in Europe? And how did titans like Elon Musk and Donald Trump fit in here? Apparently, no self-respecting political intrigue can do without the participation of these guys now. Why are the German right still considered political exiles in the EU, despite their growing popularity? How does the investigation of extremism threaten the future of the party? And what do Berlin and Brussels think about this alliance? Spoiler alert, they don't think very well, but that doesn't surprise us. By the end of the video, you will not only understand the intricacies of European politics, but also understand how this friendship can reshape the continent. Are you ready? Let's go. A couple of weeks before the Bundestag elections, Alternative for Germany's candidate for Chancellor Alice Weidel traveled to Budapest to meet with Viktor Orban. It was not just a diplomatic voyage for the German right, which had been denied recognition for a long time. This is a real political breakthrough. Well, or an attempt to arrange one. The situation is also fueled by the recent Congress of the Patriots for Europe Association in Madrid, an ambitious formation that has already aspired to the role of the third largest force in the European Parliament. So Weidel's visit to Hungary is not just a meeting, but a landmark moment that can change the balance of power in the EU. Or not change it, whatever happens here. Firstly, this is the first time in the history of the AfD when its leader met with the current head of state. Despite stable support in Germany, the party is still viewed with caution even among right-wing allies. In the European Parliament elections in June, the German right had to create a separate faction, the Europe of Sovereign Nations, because respected conservatives like the Italian League and the Polish Confederation did not want to associate with them. Even the right has its own untouchables, and the Alternative for Germany is one of them. Why does this party remain in political quarantine? First of all, because of the reputation. In Germany, accusations of the party's links with extremists are regularly spread. Some of its representatives periodically add fuel to the fire with harsh statements. Even Viktor Orban once remarked in an interview, "The Alternative for Germany is more of a movement than a party. Very strange people and ideas can appear there." This is being said by a man whose political views are causing Brussels headaches. Marine Le Pen refused to include them in the Patriots for Europe at all. Well, Weidel and the company continue to remain in their separate right orbit. Budapest, of course, declares that Weidel's visit is her personal initiative. But Orban is clearly interested in getting closer to the German right. He is easy to understand. He has long dreamed of creating a powerful coalition of right-wing parties capable of influencing EU decisions. Recently, after the Alternative supported Hungary's anti-sanctions policy, Orban even trolled Germans on Twitter, "Good morning, Germany. Welcome to the club." Weidel immediately replied, "Good morning, Hungary. Thank you, Viktor Orban. It's a pleasure to be a part of the club." The idea of a European right-wing international has been in the air for a long time. The Madrid Congress of Patriots for Europe discussed how to unite conservative forces for the sake of political influence. The Spanish Vox Party even officially expressed support for Alice Weidel before the German elections. The conclusion is obvious. Europe's right flank wants consolidation, and Weidel and Orban are just the first signs of a global trend. However, whether they can really make a difference or remain marginals with ambitions is still an open question. Will the Alternative for Germany not only gain popularity, but also gain serious political weight? This alliance may be a turning point, but its strength has yet to be tested by time. In addition, Germany's political landscape remains extremely tense. Immigration, climate policy, economic instability, and the growing polarization of society are still key challenges. The Alternative continues to position itself as the voice of the discontented. But is this enough to achieve real power? The German right must offer not only criticism, but also concrete solutions if they really want to change the political balance. Because shouting "we're against it" is one thing, but suggesting how to fix it is completely another. Last but not least, how do European leaders react to this? The reaction of official Brussels to the rapprochement between Alice Weidel and Orban is ambiguous. Some see this as a wake-up call, while others see it as an inevitable step in a changing political reality. One thing is for sure, Europe is changing, and the right is no longer content to play the role of outsiders. They intend to fight for their place in the sun. This means that new conflicts of interests and unexpected alliances await us. If in the 90s the slogan was, "Globalization is our everything," now the trend has changed, "Sovereignty or death." The current political moment has turned out to be surprisingly favorable for the AfD's rapprochement with its European allies. In addition to the upcoming elections in Germany, global figures such as Donald Trump and Elon Musk play a significant role in this process. Musk, this indefatigable provocateur, suddenly started talking about the future of Germany and connected it with the right-wing forces. His hour-and-a-half interview with Weidel overturned the usual patterns, destroying the myth that the AfG is an exclusively Russian project. Now the party does not look like a club of outsiders, but as part of a global political instrument. And as long as someone does not believe the statements of Viktor Orban and Alice Weidel, their ratings are growing. Recent opinion polls show that Alternative for Germany consistently ranks second, behind only the CDU. For a party that until recently was considered a bunch of marginals, this is, of course, a tremendous breakthrough. The only question is whether they will be able to turn this rating into real levers of power, or will they again remain a club of interests for those dissatisfied with the system. The story of the Hungarian Fidesz, who rose from opposition to a dominant force, inspires the German right. But there is one catch. The German political system is arranged differently. You can't just put yourself in a chair of power there. And the main parties, the CDU, the SPD, and the Greens, are steadfastly on the defensive, categorically refusing to enter into a coalition with the AfD. They are trying to corner us, but the people will put everything in its place, Weidel confidently stated in an interview with Bild. Perhaps, but you definitely shouldn't count on a sudden miracle. An additional intrigue is created by the investigation of the Federal Service for the Protection of the German Constitution, in which the AfD is suspected of having too close contacts with extremists. Now the party is under surveillance, which means increased control, problems with financing, and constant pressure. Some regional offices, such as in Thuringia and Saxony, are already under close surveillance by the security services. The May report of the Special Services for the 24th year directly points to their links with far-right groups. But, of course, the AfD rejects the accusations, calling them a dirty election game. "They just want to deprive us of votes," said one of the party's representatives. Who would doubt it? As if that wasn't enough, Viktor Orban's rapprochement with the AfD infuriated the leader of the Christian Democrats, Friedrich Merz, the likely future Chancellor of Germany. At the last CDU Congress, he indignantly criticized Orban, saying that he was interfering in Germany's internal affairs. "We will not allow external forces to dictate our political landscape," Merz declared with pathos, as if Germany were an island in the ocean. Another series in the never-ending struggle of ideologies. Orban, a supporter of European sovereignty, against Merz, a person who embodies the Washington Consensus. The political chess game continues, and the pieces on the board are already starting to move faster. Hungary's position towards the EU has become tougher in recent years. Orban has long refused to play by the rules of Brussels. He rejects multiculturalism, blocks migration initiatives, and limits the influence of different communities. As a result, Brussels rewarded him with the freezing of subsidies worth more than 30 billion euros. It would seem that a financial stranglehold should have forced Orban to submit. But no. He uses her as a trump card in a game with voters. "We are victims of the European bureaucracy," he declares, and the electorate predictably applauds. Now the AfD is adopting this rhetoric, claiming that Germany has become a hostage to green utopias and the Brussels dictatorship. So will this alliance of right-wing forces be able to reformat Europe? So far, the AfD has more problems than the hero of a bad thriller. The special services are on the tail, the traditional parties are on guard, public opinion is shaky, like a German lawn after rain. But one thing is for sure, the political map is changing, and the right is no longer going to sit in a corner. The question is, will they have the strength and political skill to turn their rating into real power, or will they remain eternal outsiders dreaming of revenge? Time will show. In the meantime, popcorn and watch. Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. elections has reinvigorated the European right. His slogan "America First" perfectly rhymes with the ideas of sovereignty, which are actively promoted by Viktor Orban and Alice Weidel. This triumph demonstrated that conservative values, despite all the forecasts, continue to find a warm response from voters. The leader of the Spanish Vox, Santiago Abascal, said at the Madrid Congress that Trump's victory is a sign that the wave of right turn will not stop. In this story, Elon Musk plays a separate role, a man who can change the political agenda with a single tweet. His support for the AfD, expressed in an article for the Wall Street Journal and an hour-and-a-half interview with Weidel, became a sensation. Musk, who previously made no secret of his skepticism about the EU's migration policy, is now openly calling for giving the right a chance. According to media experts, his influence is difficult to overestimate. If Musk is changing the agenda on social media, it means he is changing it in the minds of millions of people. But even if Alternative for Germany doubles its election result, the road to government remains closed for it. However, the strengthening of the right can lead to political paralysis, as it already happened in 2017, when Germany plunged into managerial uncertainty for 6 months due to difficulties in forming a coalition. Some analysts call the rapprochement between the AfD and Orban an investment for the future. This is a long-term project aimed at creating a powerful alliance for the European Parliament elections in 2029, said a diplomat from Brussels who wished to remain anonymous. And what about Russia? Contrary to the rhetoric of the West, which claims that Moscow supports the right, no clear evidence of links between the AfD and the Kremlin has been found. As one of the MEPs ironically remarked, if Moscow has any influence, it is done elegantly through gas, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. The meeting between Weidel and Orban marked a new chapter in the history of the European right. However, the question remains, will this alliance be strong, or will it end with a series of loud statements? Will the AfD and its allies be able to overcome internal contradictions and offer voters not only criticism, but also a constructive program? Time will show. The political landscape of Europe continues to change, and this meeting is not just a symbolic gesture, but a serious bid to consolidate right-wing forces in Europe. Despite internal disagreements, scandals, and pressure from traditional parties, Alternative for Germany confirms that its ideas resonate with a significant part of Europeans. The path to power for the AfD is still thorny. Even if the party doubles its results, its isolation in the German political landscape is unlikely to end. The CDU, the Social Democrats, and the Greens still refuse to form a coalition with the right, which makes their participation in the government almost impossible. However, global trends such as Trump's victory and Elon Musk's support reinforce the belief that the right is seriously challenging the liberal establishment. Viktor Orban, in turn, uses the rapprochement with the Alternative for Germany as a strategic tool to strengthen Hungary's position within the European Union. His plans to create a powerful right-wing international uniting conservative and nationally oriented parties in Europe are capable of radically changing the balance of power in the European Parliament by 2029. Orban seeks not only to consolidate his power in Hungary, but also to create a coalition that can resist the Brussels bureaucracy and the left liberal course, which, in his opinion, is leading Europe to decline. This is an ambitious project that could become a new political reality for the EU, but its success largely depends on whether the new right-wing bloc can offer not only criticism of the current system, but also a real creative program that can attract broad segments of the population. So far, the successes of the right-wing forces have been based mainly on protest sentiments, citizens' dissatisfaction with migration policy, increased bureaucratic control, and economic problems caused by sanctions and the energy crisis. People are tired of Brussels' decisions, which often ignore the national interests of EU member states. However, protest alone is not enough to have a long-term impact on European politics. If the right-wing bloc wants not only to gain popularity in the wake of discontent, but also to truly change Europe, it needs a clear reform program, economic, social, and foreign policy. Without this, even the most outspoken opposition rhetoric may lose its power over time. The question is whether Orban and his allies will be able to offer a convincing alternative to the current system and prove that their course leads to development, and not just to resistance to the liberal establishment. Friends, now I want to express my opinion, which I hope many of you will support. Reading all this, I find myself thinking, Europe is on the verge of big changes, and the question is not whether they will happen or not, but in which direction we will go. The political struggle, new alliances, and opposition to Brussels are all interesting, of course, but I personally hope for one thing the most: early peace and stability. I want to see a strong Europe that is not torn apart by internal conflicts, but is confidently moving forward, finding a balance between tradition and progress. There is too much tension now, too much power struggle, but in the end it is important not just to win the political game, but to make people live better. I hope those who are striving for leadership now have the wisdom to remember this. Thank you for your attention. Don't forget to share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the channel. This is very important to me. See you, friends.